Now it's time for Lefties Losing It. And I think we're ready to hear more pronouns and expressions of gender identity. Are you homoflexible? Perhaps you're pan or trixic. No, I don't know what any of these words mean either.
Hi, my name's Queenie and my pronouns are they, them. When I post about my gender identity and my sexuality, when I say that I don't want any labels, that is not an invitation for you to speculate on who I am or what I am. It's not a guessing game for you to play over whether I'm a girl or a boy, about what's in my pants, or if I'm pan or bi or trixic or homoflexible or gray romantic or anything else. You don't need to fully understand the nuances of gender identity or sexuality to know that each person knows who they are better than you ever will.
Yes, there are new identities and pronouns popping up every hour, it seems, but how many things can you identify as at the same time? See if you can beat this millennial list.
I am a white transmasculine femme non-binary, temporarily mostly able-bodied, neurodivergent, obsessive-compulsive, chronically ill, culturally Jewish, Unitarian Universalist, non-monogamous, demi-low romantic, gray demi-bisexual, survivor of acute and complex trauma, millennial, and cat parent in mental health recovery.
Demi-low romantic, chronically ill Unitarian Universalist, transmasculine, I've lost track already. Let's hear now from a lefty who's been losing it for some time now. One time Oscar nominee when she was known as Ellen Page, star of the hit film Juno. But she has since transitioned to Elliot Page, an enthusiastic trans activist who claims that being LGBTQIA++ is not niche.
Often called like niche, queer things niche. 30% of young people identify as LGBTQ+. So I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not niche. You tell really specific stories about like cis het people. I'm not calling that odd plot niche. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure I read a good book about that by Abigail Schreier, Irreversible Damage, the Transgender Craze Seducing Our Daughters. But Paige is right, there are a lot of young people identifying as anything other than just an ordinary girl or boy. I mean, who wants to be ordinary? I'm reminded of this classic clip from a Washington, D.C. Pride rally in 22 where journalist Savannah Hernandez ask people how they identify.
I am genderqueer, transmasc, and queer.
What's transmasc?
Transmasc is like people under the non-binary umbrella identifying like or presenting masc.
Masculine?
Yeah.
What about you?
I'm trans and my sexuality is unlabeled. I use he, him pronouns.
Yeah, and I use he, they pronouns.
Tell us what you guys identify as. We're asking everyone here today.
Gay, cis, what is it? Cisgender male. There we go.
I don't know. Gender neutral or gender fluid. I think that's what they said. I don't know. I'm confused.
We're all confused, lady. Let's see if there is any more clarity with some others at the rally.
He, she, her, they.
She.
Pronouns are he, him, sometimes use they. I don't give a
I guess you could call me gay. I'm homoflexible, really. I do like some women, but mostly men.
She, her, it. I feel like, honestly, it should not be a bad thing. Like, I've talked to people who go with they and them. I'm like, well, in the grammar of things, how would you want to represent yourself? I was like, I mean, I guess it, because it's like, you're it, you're the it.
I'd be careful before referring to people as it. Not everyone is going to appreciate it. But that was Washington, D.C. It's a strange place. Only 4% voted for Trump. Surely we wouldn't have that sort of confusion in Texas.
They, she. They, he, non-binary, transmasc.
Bisexual. I'm just trans.
I'm a gay male pup.
Yeah.
Gay male pup?
Yeah.
Transgender, he, him.
I'm cis, she, her.
Probably non-binary, yeah, would be the best.
What about you?
Bi. A lesbian. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
I like frogs, not people. I'm sorry? I like frogs, not people.
I like frogs too. Now to Democrat stalwart and strategist James Carville, losing it over Trump increasing his lead in the latest polls, particularly in those crucial swing states.
In Trump's more ahead
than he's ever been. It's going the wrong way. It's not working. Everything that we're throwing is spaghetti at a wall, and none of it is sticking, me included. And it's hard when you're starting your 80th year, and you know, like anybody else, I have an opinion of myself, and the opinion I've come to is I don't matter. And you know, we gotta like try to think of something different, because what we're doing is really, really not working.
I don't know, how about trying to formulate policies that don't destroy the country? That could be an idea. How about not becoming some sad copy of a banana republic where the ruling party tries to jail their main political rival? How about not being lefties losing it on a daily basis? That might see a bump in Biden's numbers, because, you know, things are pretty grim when even CNN can't hide the truth anymore.
Look, these Sunbelt battleground states, frankly, for the Joe Biden campaign, these numbers are an absolute disaster. The smallest lead is in Arizona for Donald Trump. He's up 6. Look at this, 9 in Georgia, 13 in Nevada. My goodness gracious, my God. That is a huge lead. No Democrat has lost that state since John Kerry lost it back in 2004. How about these Great Lake battleground states? This is something that the Joe Biden campaign can work with.
Yes, the Joe Biden team can work with that, but why is Trump doing so well in those Sunbelt states like Nevada, Georgia and Arizona? You're going to love this answer from CNN. The CNN audience probably didn't like it, but you will.
When you're looking into the numbers, why do you think Biden is doing better in the Great Lakes and Trump is doing so much better in the Sunbelt?
Yeah, the Trump coalition is changing. That's basically what's cooking here. This is at least one of the big reasons why. So this is among likely voters in all these battleground states we just spoke about. Back in 2020, 84% of the Trump campaigns, the Trump coalition was white. Look where it is now. It's 78%. The non-white portion of the Trump coalition, it was 13% in 2020. Look at this now. It's 19%. So the Trump coalition is becoming more diverse. And, of course, those Sunbelt battleground states are more diverse than the Great Lake battleground states.
You're looking at the Nevadas and the Arizonas here.
Of course. If you look at Nevada, Arizona, heavy Hispanic population, Georgia, heavily African-American population. With the Michigan does have some black voters in it, but Pennsylvania and Wisconsin are heavily, heavily white.
Yes, Trump's non-white vote has jumped around 50%, and the whiter the state, the better Joe Biden is doing. Doesn't that smash the media's tired old narratives? Now to North Carolina, where some lefty students lost it at Duke University's commencement ceremony on Sunday because the guest speaker was Jerry Seinfeld, who has the audacity to be white, male, heterosexual, and even worse, he is a Jew who supports Israel. The lefties couldn't handle that. Some of them got up and walked off as the crowd booed.
So what's the big deal about
I'm pretty sure the crowd were booing all those lefties who were walking off. But I do wonder what Jerry Seinfeld could have said that would be so objectionable that you couldn't possibly stomach it. You had to get up and walk off and miss a massive milestone in your academic career. This is possibly the most controversial parts of the speech I'm about to play you, and a trigger warning for the crazy people.
Privilege is a word that has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I would like to take a moment to defend it. Again, a lot of you are thinking, I can't believe they invited this guy. Too late. I say, use your privilege. I grew up a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian. My point is we're embarrassed about things we should be proud of and proud of things we should be embarrassed about. So on my staff in the 90s, we had a lot of Harvard guys. They were fantastic, but I could never understand why these guys were so embarrassed about being from Harvard. They would never talk about it. They would never mention it. I'm not talking about Harvard now. I'm talking about the way it used to be. You're never going to believe this. Harvard used to be a great place to go to school.
Joining me now is filmmaker and journalist Ami Horowitz. Ami, President Joe Biden is notorious for repeating lies, verifiable lies, over and over again. And the latest example is the claim that inflation was at 9% when he took office.
I think inflation has gone slightly up. It was at 9% when I came in, and it's now down around 3%. And bringing down inflation, it was 9% when I came to office. 9%.
Inflation was actually 1.4% when Biden was sworn in.
Ami, why does he keep doing these? I mean, these are things you can check. They're not just matters of opinion.
No, it's, well, he was right in the sense that it was 9% a year after he came into office. No, on the inflation issue itself, he's made many, many lies. For example, that inflation was because of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, when a simple math equation shows you the majority of the inflation actually came prior to the invasion of Ukraine. I mean, we can go on and on. We could talk about how his uncle was eaten by cannibals. Yes, that was something he actually claimed to be a fact. We could talk about he's arrested in Delaware for civil rights violations. And frankly, the worst of all, when he continuously says that his son was killed in Afghanistan, when his son actually tragically died of cancer afterwards. But despicably, he loves to trot that out when he's talking to families who lost kids in wars. He continues to trot out that particular lie, particularly despicable and terrible. No, but of course, he's never going to be called on it because he's parroting what the mainstream media wants to hear. This one is, again, the issue is the verifiability. If you're going to lie, Joe, lie is something that can't be checked. That would be my suggestion to you, a little gift for you. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
It's just incredible. Like, yeah, inflation was once 9%, but during your term, when you inherited office, the inflation was almost at rock bottom. So it's just such a bold-faced lie. US Vice President Kamala Harris, though, she's not doing much better. She's expressing her appreciation for young activists during a recent interview, praising their approach and how they aren't waiting around for the older generation to solve big issues. She highlighted things like their readiness to tackle policies on gun violence and climate change. But, Ami, these are strange comments to be making at a time when college campuses are overrun by these young activists disgracing themselves and disgracing these institutions of higher learning.
Yeah, I also, if you recall, I also recently took a tour around a campus with my American flag, and 15 of these great youth people she's referring to attacked me viciously and grabbed my flag. I think she needs to take a look around. Is she praising the people who attack me? Is she praising the people who won't allow Jews to go to class on campus? She needs to be clear about what she's referring to. And by the way, I think she also needs to take a look at the poll numbers, because the 18 to 29 vote, which overwhelmingly went for Biden and Kamala Harris last election, seems to be eroding significantly. Because even them, even the 18 and 29, and by the way, if you know anybody who's under 29, they don't know anything, right? But even those people are smart enough to realize that this country is being driven into the ground, and the responsibility lies directly with this administration, which, by the way, happens to include Kamala Harris. So, yeah, I think she needs to recheck her little tour of the campuses, and maybe she'll recant it. I don't know. I doubt it.
Well, a law school in Boston is facing a backlash after graduates smeared red paint on their hands and held them up during their commencement ceremonies. Pro-Palestinian students used this symbol of bloody hands to protest the death toll in Gaza. Ami, you know perfectly well what this means. Tell my audience what those red hands symbolise. What event are these graduates glorifying?
Yeah, so there was a lynching in Ramallah a number of years ago where a Jew was murdered and ripped apart by Palestinian animals. And one particular thug, animal beast, took his bloody hands and he put them out the window famously and photographed it. I assume you're referring to that. That is the most disgusting display of savagery that I could imagine. But I think that these students need to pay attention a little more to the news. We've been saying this for a while, but even the United Nations has recanted and finally said, okay, we were lying for a long time about this war in Gaza, and they finally came to terms and reduced the number of civilian casualties by 50%, Rita. We all knew those numbers were lies, but everybody kept saying, well, look what the mainstream media is saying. The UN is saying it. And now finally, after the damage has been done to Israel's reputation, they finally came out and said, oh, we got it wrong. Actually, the Israeli numbers were right. And shockingly, Hamas numbers are wrong. Maybe those idiots on that campus, that graduation, to look at the fact that Israel has fought a war, historically low civilian casualties, two civilians for every one militant, as opposed to, and by the way, and that's when you have the most densely populated place on planet Earth where Hamas is hiding civilians, using civilians as shields for themselves. And if you compare that to the NATO numbers of Afghanistan, well, the numbers were 5-1. Maybe those people should look at those numbers and maybe rethink their idiocy on graduation day.
Now let's talk about Snopes. Snopes, the so-called fact-checking site, has been embarrassed again, having to correct a fact-check about Ashley Biden, the daughter of US President Joe Biden, her diary. The disturbing claims in that diary are now listed as true, not unproven. Army, I mean, if this was Ivanka's diary detailing inappropriate showers with her dad and all sorts of other allegations, we'd never stop hearing about it. This would be well known across the board, but the contents of this diary have been memory hold. So many in the media have declined to report anything about it.
Yeah, the big issue here really is the fact checkers themselves, and Snopes and PolitiFact and USA Today and the like. I think one of the great accomplishments of the left was their ability to take over that entire industry and then brand it as unbiased, right? Above the political fray. And people have taken that and frankly done a great job of branding, because regular people look at these organizations, Wikipedia and Snopes and PolitiFact and so forth, as fact. And the reality is so far from that. I can tell you personally, I have had, with all of those fact-checking organizations, I have run into issues with them where they have lied baldly about things that I have said. I have forced several of them to recant. But of course, once it's released, the damage is done. And you know when they're lying, when all their mistakes are all in favor of liberals and none of the mistakes are in favor of conservatives. That really is the answer how they're lying. If it was even half-half, I could see how could they look. Anybody can make mistakes, but no. What the reality is that what they are, they look at what they want things to be and assume that must be actual fact. Right? They basically have weaponized their bias. And again, it's been a very, very successful branding exercise. And they've sold to the public as you can look at us as unbiased when it couldn't be further from the truth.
Absolutely. And it's so dangerous because it is gaslighting on a mass scale, calling themselves fact checkers when they're often amongst the most biased activists in the industry. Armie Horowitz, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Always a pleasure.